Coming to you live from the palatial studios of PBJ Productions. Welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate. Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate. And guess what? As you can see, we're not in the office or the studio today. We are at Whitty's Lagoon. And we just thought it'd be great to get out and get around the island and show you kind of what's here. I know in one of our videos we were up at Cowichan.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Absolutely. So in beautiful Machosen, one of my favorite places to visit. I've got in-laws in this direction, so I've been familiar with Machosen for the past 20 years. So I love it here. So many beaches.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a hiker. I'll do it. I promise I will. But give me a beach any day.
Yeah, I hear you. So with that being said, we want to talk today about real estate investing.
Yeah, well, it's a multifaceted topic where clients would approach us and say, "Hey, I want to invest in real estate." And before assuming something, like they want to buy a rental, they want to flip something,
Right.
I start asking questions. What are their goals?
Yeah.
What do they want to achieve with this? Is it short term? Is it long term? And what might be the capabilities too? Like, I want to build a house, but I'm probably better off at this point buying a rental.
Right.
Just I have a certain amount of equity, but what's my risk tolerance?
Sure.
Right. So there's a ton of questions
I was going to say,
look through first.
Yeah, then that's the number one thing is there's not one carte blanche. This is real estate investment and this is how you do it. It depends, like you said, on what your goals are.
Yeah.
I think it's important to also understand investing in real estate is not like winning the lottery. Like I've seen some presentations where they're like, "Oh, this is it. This is how you're going to do it," and certainly you can do well at it and be successful at it.
Yeah.
But there's no magic bullet here. There's a process that you have to be prepared to handle, regardless of what you're doing. So it's not I'm saying all that to say, it's not an overnight thing, right? So the first thing is, like you said, there's some questions, right?
Maybe we should start with one of the more popular directions people want to go is
Sure.
flipping houses.
Okay.
And I ask right away, who are you doing this with?
Yeah.
If it's a spouse or a life partner, that kind of thing, or you have somebody that's a business partner altogether. This is unexpected things are going to come up
Sure.
in renovating a house.
Yeah.
And are you willing, or you have the budget? And
Right.
do you work well as a team together before we even get into
Sure. And
something like that?
Sure. And the other question is, what is your level of knowledge? Because if you're going to engage, if you're not going to do the work, let's say, and you're going to engage trades and bring them in, and what is your level of knowledge of who to talk to? What are your connections on who to get to come in to do this versus that, and kind of that whole process, right?
Yeah. Like I could probably paint, but I would have, it wouldn't be really that good. And
Yeah.
I could cut the grass, but like I know where my strengths are, and it's not working with my hands. So if somebody is, and I know lots of guys that have, it's been guys that my experience in the past, they'll do all like a lot of the heavy lifting, the manual
Sure.
work,
Sweat equity, we call that.
sweat
right?
equity.
Yeah.
The other half might be more adept to choosing what design, what
Sure.
colors,
Sure.
what materials to put in,
Yeah.
right? So, I've seen people work really well together, but it's stressful still.
Yeah.
And you're counting on making some money. You put that house, condo back on the market,
Sure.
and hopefully the market doesn't take a turn on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if as an investor, if you're looking to flip this property, you can't come in at top dollar on a purchase.
Well, they say, I guess the saying goes, you make money on the buy. Sort of, I guess. You can't
Okay.
overpay for a property.
Yeah.
But if the value's there and you can increase the value, I don't know. I feel like
Well, I
that's
guess
not
that's
always the case, but
right.
it's a nice slogan to say, in a meme or something.
Sure. I guess my point is, if you buy something at the market value in that neighborhood, what are you going to do to that property or that home to get above the market value when you sell it?
Because you got to figure out what is the ceiling value.
Yeah.
If the market doesn't move, if it stays the same, and there's enough room in there for to satisfy whatever your expectations are,
Yeah.
then it might be a good opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because there's your cost to do all the work, right?
yeah.
There's property transfer tax. And now there's the flipping tax, right?
You got the flipping tax. So you basically, the flipping tax is like a provincial capital gains tax,
Right.
which starts to diminish after, I think it's a year, um, and then it's like gone after 2 years.
Right.
And of course, you're still looking at capital gains.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm not saying avoid the taxes, but if there's profit to be made quicker, and in my brain that makes good sense, and pay the taxes.
Sure.
So you
But
take that money and move on to something else.
right. But I guess my point is you need to take all of that and figure all that
All
into
of
the
this, yeah,
equation, right? And
absolutely.
figure out all the, and I know that's not very glamorous and exciting, but it's very important because it's going to affect your bottom line.
Bottom line, and your backup plan. What if it doesn't sell, or what if you don't get the offer that you're expecting,
Right.
and the market starts to, seasonally, let's say, slow down.
Yeah. And we're not trying to put fear into anybody, but you need to think these things through and be aware of what your risk tolerance is in the situation.
Yeah, and we only touched on flipping properties, and there's still more to that. So obviously, if you have questions, or if that's your interest, that would really take into a more in-depth analysis of needs and wants, budgets, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good time to start connecting with professionals like your mortgage broker, your bank, us as
Yeah.
realtors.
Yeah. And there's maybe one thing I'll add to the flipping properties because sometimes people think, well, if I get something that's a foreclosure,
Oh,
I'm gonna get a better deal on it, and that's what I'll flip.
yeah.
And I know we've both dealt with foreclosures, both on the seller side and the buyer side.
Yep.
I would say this: if that's your thought process, it can happen. I've had clients over the years that we bought a property, we got it at a great price through a foreclosure. We were still competing, but we did get it, and she made a good profit when she sold it. However, it also depends on who's coming in and what they're prepared to pay for it, because it may not be a great price. It may just be the market price.
Well, we both have experience working for the banks and the lawyers that represent the banks, and they don't approach it like uh, it needs a lot of work, or whatever the case may be, because typically these properties are have deferred maintenance. There's always something that needs to be done on them, but they don't price it that way initially. They price it for, what do you think what's the most we can get. They look at comparables, right?
Yeah,
We give them the comparables.
yeah,
They do as well as our own. They do an additional appraisal, and they always take the appraisal number, and then we have to we have to anyways, we have to do our work, to get it to a price where it's actually saleable, to get it to court,
yeah.
and then that's a whole different process.
Right.
But we talked about foreclosures before in the past, and it's not like the perception of, I don't know, I grew up watching late night TV in the 90s, early 2000s, and
What
there
was
would
that
be
guy's name? That
there's
Russ Whitney.
Russ Whitney, Tom Vu. There's some other like gurus saying you can buy properties, but this is so misleading. It's very American, and even between like the 50 states, like I bet all the rules are not the same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We can go with different examples, but there's 50 different sets of rules in the states to where are the opportunities.
yeah,
Here, the judge that's not representing the seller, but it's the last person protecting the owner, because the bank is foreclosing.
yeah,
Their lawyer is trying to get the most amount of money for the bank, and they don't typically want to foreclose on properties. That's the
yeah,
last thing they want to
yeah,
do. They're not property managers.
yeah,
Um, the judge is going to be testing the realtors that are the uh, uh, representing the bank, and lawyer representing the bank, but they still want to see that we're getting the best offer for that
yeah.
house.
And they want to see. the history, right? So when the last foreclosure we were in, the judge read off the history.
Yeah.
Here's what we did. Here's what we did. Here was the marketing, the advertising. Here are the numbers of the views. Here's the numbers of everything. Here's when we did a reduction. Here's when we did a reduction. Here's the offer we've accepted.
So they accounted for everything before
Everything.
even considering and accepting an offer.
Well, that was in court. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they'd done that once already, and then in court, the master went through all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is that can foreclosures be a way to get investment property? Absolutely. But so can going out and just looking at a distressed property, or a property that for whatever reason the price is a good property.
Yeah, it's priced appropriately because of the deferred maintenance or whatever might need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no car, do it this way and it's going to work every time. But in terms of the flipping of the property, I think you need to be aware, if you're going to go that route, some expertise is going to be a good idea.
Contractors that you trust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
contractors you trust, and your own expertise to know what needs to be done, or whoever you're bringing in to do that process. And just be realistic. I remember doing a flip one time years ago, and just basically stars in my eyes. This is going to be such a great deal. I ended up losing because the way we wrote the deal, I ended up not flipping the house,
Oh, okay.
and it reverted back to where I got it from, and lost like $40,000 in the process.
Ah, yeah.
So
You weren't up late watching those late night
yeah,
gurus, were you?
no, I wasn't, but I was just, I wasn't realistic in my expectations.
And HGTV, sorry, I love watching HGTV, but it's not reality. Even if it's reality, like a reality TV show, like it's planned, it's scripted. Like they're gonna talk about this, they're gonna reshoot things to make it exciting and interesting.
Yeah,
So HGTV is not exactly reality. It might uh, bear resemblance to reality, uh,
right.
but it's not same thing. Like they shoot in Ontario, they shoot somewhere else. We're in BC, the laws are different.
Well, there's
Like
the one
there's things are different.
yeah, there's some to shoot in BC too, and all of that. But that's not the main point of all of that is, um, if you're gonna go into flipping, you can certainly make a profit doing it, but you make a profit doing it because you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
right?
And you might lose money on the first one because it costs money to learn
Yeah, I've
sometimes.
learned
Yeah.
so that when we go around that bend again, I've learned a lot,
Yeah.
right? And a $40,000 lesson, but
Well, yeah, well, you recovered, so life is good, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're going to continue on from there, but we're already out of time for this episode, and we'll continue from here where we are again. We're at Whitty's Lagoon in Machosin. Beautiful, beautiful part of the island. Great. If you were to just keep hiking down here, you're going to head straight to the ocean, and it's a beautiful day out here, and we're enjoying summer. And if you're watching this from outside of the Victoria area and you want to find out about, what about Victoria? What about moving here? What is going on here as far as real estate? Feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is in the description. We're happy to help you. And, with the island real estate team, we're able to help you in all parts of the island. And so we're happy to do what we can to assist you or answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us.
We'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
See ya.